All right, well, good afternoon. We'll go ahead and get started now. My name is Sean Baer. All right, so let's jump into this. The point of this session really is to talk about digital transformation and what kind of impact it can have on helping you improve your asset operations and improve your ability to you have efficient operations and maintenance programs. And I think one of the challenges starting on this slide here that we see with a number of our customers is that, and we certainly see across the industry, is that organizations are really having to stretch their investment in existing infrastructure. So, maximizing asset lifespans is hugely important, and typically what we're seeing, and there's a lot of data to support this, is that, if you have a plant that's maybe designed to last 40 years, the reality is you're going to be asking it to provide, high production for 60 years. You're going to be really stretching the amount of time that you're trying to get out of your existing assets. So that really creates some challenges. So I think it certainly forces you to really consider, what your operations plans are, how you're maintaining your existing assets, what you need to do, what additional investment you need to make in those assets to enable it to last a little bit longer. Another big challenge that we see with companies is regulatory concerns. So fines that you get from regulatory agencies really obviously have a negative impact on your ability to remain profitable. So certainly this is one of the areas that we see a lot of focus on. And then I think, to the main topic of the conversation, and certainly some of what you heard in the last keynote, there's really this emergence of the digital enterprise, and you see people like Jamie Dimon, who CEO of J.P. Morgan Chase, one of the largest banks in the world, is quoted here being very concerned about what Silicon Valley might be cooking up. If there's some startup in Silicon Valley that's going to have drive such innovation in the financial services industry, that their bank, one of the largest banks in the world, might be threatened. So it's certainly something that if Jamie Dimon is paying attention to it, you also probably know that there's companies over on the left and industries over on the left that have been really usurped by companies that have been much more nimble in terms of being able to leverage technology to completely disrupt the industry, whether it's changing the business model, introducing new capabilities that make older legacy businesses look small by comparison. It's certainly a big concern for many companies, and for good reason. And I think as we look at it, there's really kind of three dimensions that we see people investing in to try to improve their digital enterprise and to transform themselves digitally. Really, the three dimensions are people, the business itself, how you manage the business models, and IT. Obviously IT is of particular interest to us here at Momentum. But thinking about all three is, I think, really important to make sure that you've got all the bases covered and are really well poised to react to changes or to new technologies that are available to you. And one of the things that I found extremely interesting, if you look at the energy industry, is that 88% of companies claim that they're undergoing a digital transformation. But if you dig into that and ask them, what are you doing? What are you really trying to accomplish? Only 25% of them can really be specific about what their goals are and what specific things they're doing to react to it, and what to be able to describe their digital transformation. So it's a real interesting two statistics there that kind of don't match very well together, and they were created by the same company doing the research. So it's not like these numbers are coming from completely different groups of people. So people are doing stuff, but they're just doing stuff. They're not really doing it with a clear strategy. So what I want to talk to you about today was a little bit about some ideas around what areas to focus on from a digital transformation in the energy industry. And we'll talk a little bit specifically around digital asset management and kind of what we can do on that front. ECD can provide for you on that front to really drive some change. So if we look at these three examples here, I think one of the things we certainly see in the utilities industry is a lot of effort going into their customer interaction. A little bit less so in the oil and gas industry, probably a little bit more, focus on digitally enabling the whole value chain is important in the oil and gas industry. But in the utilities industry especially, see a lot of focus on the customer engagement. How can we make it easier for the customer to do business with us? How can we provide more information to the customer so that they feel comfortable about the value they're getting from our company? And so certainly that's one area that we see a lot of investment. The other area is around intelligent operations, really taking advantage of some of the new sensor technology, Internet of Things, big data, using that to drive the analytics. And we'll talk a little bit more about this one. And then digital asset management, we'll talk quite a bit more about. If we think about intelligent operations, there's really kind of three key things here that I think are worth focusing on from a digital transformation perspective. One is certainly using some of that sensor data to monitor equipment productivity, equipment health. And I think there's obviously an opportunity there with some of the new technology to be able to increase the amount of information that we're collecting. But obviously, if you collect a lot of information, you need to be able to analyze it. So you really need to make sure you've got technologies in place so that you can have the right analytics to predict and really diagnose problems before they happen. And that really allows you to do much more proactive maintenance. And I think that's really a key area there. And then the final area is around kind of maintenance optimization. How do you balance the amount of time you spend maintaining an existing part versus potentially investing in maybe an upgrade there and doing some type of brownfield project to improve, maybe upgrade to a newer pump or newer turbine to be able to improve your productivity and certainly there's some analytics you can do on that front as well that can certainly make it easier for you to understand the picture and be able to have a clear view of what you need to do to extend the asset life cycle or to increase your productivity. But when we think about digital asset management, I mean, this is certainly something that a lot of us have been talking about. But why is it important now, and why is this an important area to be focused on? I think one thing that's certainly clear is that there are a number of workforce disruptions, a number of factors at play in the energy industry that affect the workforce. We certainly see that the price of oil, for example, has caused many companies to reduce their workforce. Allowing very good, very seasoned employees to leave the organization. We also know that, and we've been hearing about it for the past 5 years at least, if not longer, about the big crew change and how the baby boomer generation is retiring, and that experience is leaving your organization. So you need to be able to prepare for that, and prepare for that in a couple of different ways. Both making sure that you have all the knowledge that those people carry with them in their minds, that you make sure you have that information available to you within your organization so that the next generation of workers have some place to go to be able to get that knowledge. And I think obviously in the oil and gas industry, the lower oil price has been a factor across a number of different factors. But certainly see that with the reduced major capital projects going on, that this is really one of those pauses that allows you to invest in technologies to really set yourself up to succeed in years going forward. So certainly we see companies taking this time to make strategic investments on a technology front that are going to allow them to be successful in the future. And I think obviously the third one is, again, with lower oil prices, the margins are smaller. So anything you can do to improve the efficiency of your assets, to increase productivity, certainly provides value. And I think this is another one of those areas where we can provide a return on investment by giving you the tools to better standardize your operations, to improve the efficiency of those operations, and use information management to really move your company forward. So let's talk a little bit about this. Why is information so important? And I think one of the things that we find is that there's information that exists across the entire lifespan of an asset, from initial designs through construction. Certainly, as you hand over information, you often have to change those documents, change the format. But ultimately, you're having information across this entire lifespan that's being accessed by a number of different people. So different types of documents, different people need to access them. but this information is important. And information that you might have produced in early design phases may become very relevant to an operations group, and you need to be able to go back and look at that information. So having an ability to get your fingers on this important information becomes extremely important. But unfortunately, if we look at many companies, not pointing any fingers in this room at all, but if we did go in and look at some of your companies, some of the companies in the industry, we see there's still a lot of paper records, a lot of companies that are still going into filing cabinets looking for a standard operating procedure or maybe an as designed or as built specification. So this is really causes a challenge, and I think it's one of the reasons, going back to the earlier point about employees leaving an organization, it's one of the real important reasons why it's important to have this information available electronically, is because these records are so difficult to get to. People just tend to rely upon people who have good memories, within your organization. So, there's been a guy around for 3 or 4 decades, and he knows the system, knows the asset, knows the plant cold. That's the person you're going to ask questions. You're not going to be going to look for the accurate information. If he's right, that's great. If he's wrong or doesn't remember it exactly right, or if he left yesterday because he retired, that's not such a good thing. Even when companies have invested to try to solve the first problem around paper records or about incomplete records, they create many silos. Each organization kind of creates their own database. They've got their own repositories, their own business systems. And if your information is in that system and you're part of that department, you're good. You've got the information you need. But being able to coordinate that with other information, maybe you've got the access to the engineering drawings, but you can't find the training materials because they're in a different database, or maybe that information is truly in paper information. So like I said, you end up relying upon knowledge experts rather than being able to go to the source of the information. But when you start to really try to manage this information, you find it's kind of difficult. And there's a couple of different challenges here that make that more difficult. One of these is certainly management of change. And thinking back to the lifespans of our assets, or of our plants today, it's easy to understand why this is such an important topic. Because even if a plant lasts 40 years, it doesn't last 40 years as it did on day one. Right? You're constantly changing that plant. You're making minor investments. You're making maybe medium investments to try to improve the plant, make it easier to maintain, make it easier to operate, make it more productive, or to extend the lifespan. But these changes can really cause problems. For example, if you had an accident that took place because the standard operating procedure had a potential risk involved in it, making that change to the standing operating procedure is great. It's the right thing to do. But if you don't publish it out, if you don't make it available to all the maintenance engineers or operations engineers that are going to be actually executing that procedure, it doesn't matter, right? You need to make sure you've reviewed that information, you've published it out, you've got the right approvals, and so forth. The other big thing here, if you look at what change does, it certainly has an impact. And I think you need to make sure that the system in place has some controls built into it to ensure that only the approved documents are actually published and available to everyone within the organization. So for example, you can think, if I make a modification to the standard operating procedure, you can't just have people always visiting the latest version of that document, because that latest version has changed. It's actually in an unimproved draft state again. So you need to make sure that, once you have a process in place so that once that approval is made, that becomes the version of record. You also need to make sure that those older versions are not accidentally accessible in some other way. So certainly having good change management is extremely important. Now, if we look at the kind of this maturity curve, it goes everywhere from having limited control of information, starting to get your information together, building process, and having it, at the end, full integration of all of your important business systems, as well as the business processes that drive the information. But if we look at where most people are on this curve, we see that they're actually pretty early in this process. They still have a heavy reliance upon paper, they have silos, and so forth. So what we've really worked with companies to do is come up with these 4 stages of information management. If you kind of step through those, it kind of provides a nice blueprint for companies to move towards having more automated, more integrated access to your information. Step one is really pretty obvious here, right? Get control of your information, get all your information into a single repository, and create the right relationships so that the information's easier to find. But having the system, is only good if people can really access it and access it easily. So, being able to take advantage of integrations with other systems or mobile solutions to allow people to be able to view the information when they're out in the field become very important. So you really want to make sure you provide that optimal access. Managing change, obviously an important step, and one that we worked with a number of customers to make sure we had the right change management built into their processes. It's certainly an important part of our documented asset operations solution. And then the final step here is really coordinating information with other business systems. And one question, and Chris covered a little bit of this during the roadmap this morning, but we have key integrations with a number of our business partners. So Aviva, we have integrations with Maximo and other systems to allow you to be able to, for example, when you're getting a work order in Maximo, that you have the ability to quickly get at all the information that would allow you to perform that task. So you obviously get a description of what the task is. You know what you need to do. Maybe you need to change a pressure at a certain valve. But how do you do that? And so being able to get straight to the standard operating procedures, be able to get straight to the as-built specifications so you know exactly where that adjustment needs to be made. And obviously you can get you get access to a longer history of all of what's happened in that area. So if there's been complications before, you can maybe get a glimpse into that world by having that tight integration. Now, what I want to do is kind of walk through each one of these, talk about some of the important considerations on each one of these steps, and I'll give you a few examples of how customers have benefited by using our technologies. So first thing here, content under control. You certainly want to pull everything together, create a centralized repository that has all of your information. You need to make sure that you have security here. Obviously, security is an important consideration. Even within our organizations, we want to make sure that only the right people have access to the right information. So you have the ability, you want to make sure you have a system that has the ability to fine-tune that, to have it be roles-driven, and you have the ability to do it at a fine-grained level. So you might be able to make some documents accessible to people. They can view them, they can consume those documents, but they don't have the ability to go in and edit them. And then finally, you want to make sure you have secure records here. So certainly in regulated industries like oil and gas, utilities, or engineering companies that are servicing those industries, you need to make sure that you have the ability to lock down documents which can't be just accidentally deleted or maliciously deleted. So certainly having the ability to have a records management capability so you have the right retention around documents becomes extremely important. And if we think about companies that need this, I mean, describing here a company that just purchased the rights, the ownership rights on a oil platform in the North Sea, and they had a very limited time, about 4 months, that they needed to get a system in place so they could demonstrate that they were able to operate that plant. Unfortunately, when they received all the information from the previous owner of that platform, they received it in paper form, not surprising. 16 pallets of paper worth, so quite a bit of information that needed to be ingested, digitized, and put into a system in a way that made it easily accessible. So not enough to just scan these records, store them in a system. We needed to know what we had. We needed to understand what the relationships were so that we could operate the plant efficiently. And using documented asset operations, they were able to do that. They were able to get all the information ingested, stored in the system in a consumable way, PDF files and so forth. And they were also able to create all the right relationships so that the standard operating procedures had relationships to the part number, which also gave you the ability to quickly access engineering drawings, as-built specifications, and so forth. So, again, a company that got a lot of value out of being able to implement a system like our documented asset operations. The next stage is around providing fast access to accurate information, right? So this is optimizing the accessibility of the information. You want to make sure you're only getting to the effective versions. We talked a little bit about that earlier. You want to enforce rights management. So again, security is an important part of that. So make sure that they're getting the right versions, that they're getting the information that they need to be able to get. And you also want to have the ability to push that information out so that when there's a new version, you're notifying the right people, the engineers that are going to be responsible for servicing that part appropriately. And you want to be able to get it wherever they are. And so certainly, considering form factors like mobile technologies, Documented Asset Operations has a mobile app that allows you to take that tablet out in the field. You can access the documents directly on the tablet. And another nice thing about the way we've implemented within this mobile app is that you can download information so you can have it offline. So we might not all have great Wi-Fi or mobile access when we're out at a plant or out in the field in some way. So being able to access those informations while you are on the network and be able to take that tablet out and still be able to use it as a way to consume those documents is a great feature to have, and what a number of our customers are either using or considering. And this access to information, again, is really important. If we, kind of looking at it from a regulatory perspective, a compliance perspective, another one of our companies was really challenged by this area about being able to demonstrate to regulators that that their employees had the right access to the right information. So they had issues, they had accidents that happened at this plant. And when the regulators came out to analyze that, they discovered that the company really couldn't provide quick access to the standard operating procedure. They really were relying upon tribal knowledge or knowledge experts within their organization to help them out. And as a result, they'd accumulated $4.5 million of fines. They'd also spent as much as $1 million just trying to build a records database so they could manage their paper records. So they'd spent a lot of money trying to address this and really fallen short. Now, what we were able to do is, again, bring in our documented asset operations solution, a standard solution they were able to they implement quickly. The implementation here was together with IBM Maximo. So again, work orders, when an engineer received a work order, they not only got that work order and the description, but they had access to all the important documents that were behind it. And as a result of this, and this is a really important thing for this company, obviously, was that they were able to get significant ROI from it, because not only were they getting value out of the capabilities that documented asset operations was providing them, but as they solved this problem, the regulators were giving them rebates on their fines. So they were able to get back quite a bit of the $4.5 million that they were forced to pay as a result of the problems they'd had in the past. All right, moving on then to the third stage, which is around managing change. So certainly you want to follow industry best practices here, and that's really what we've done with our asset operations solution. We've looked at the standards that are important. So we've looked at some of the ISO standards and so forth to make sure. And we've also talked to our customers. So we've had a number of customers involved as we developed this solution, using this solution. And we've taken some of the best practices and the standards to deliver a system that, again, allows you to meet your industry standards, but also allows you to benefit from some of the best practices from other companies in the area. We've added in structured change management that we talked about earlier, so you have built-in processes that manage the review and approval process and can help you with publishing that information out. We do have some automated transmittal capabilities as well, so that as you need to communicate with your contractors, if you're involved in a project, you certainly are able to do that. And again, looking at how companies are dealing with this. Again, another company here, European natural gas company, had real challenges building consistency into their system. So they had a content management system. They're actually using Documentum, but people were just throwing things into the system. It wasn't a very well-organized system. It wasn't particularly easy to find things. As a result, people didn't have a lot of trust in the information that existed in it. So they, again, tended to go ask Frank, the guy that had been here for 3 decades, to figure out how to operate their plant. They also had at least one full-time person that was doing nothing more than helping them organize the information that was in the system, creating dashboards, producing reports that were sent out to people to let them know what documents had changed. So, a lot of manual effort in terms of managing the documents. So with Documentum Asset Operations, they were able to automate a lot of this. They were able to take a 37 hours worth of work weekly down to about 3 in terms of manual effort to be able to maintain the documents, and really been able to create a lot of efficiency in managing their documents by leveraging a solution like Documentum Asset Operations. Last step here is around integrating with business processes. And like I said, you need to somewhat identify what the key processes, key systems are that you need to integrate and where those integration points are. But I think the important thing is that what we've done is we've actually done a lot of this work already, both ourselves and by working with our partners. We've been able to create some great relationships and great integrations with VivaNet and Maximo, so that as you use those systems, you can leverage those integrations to be able to provide value to your customers. You're also able to really reduce the amount of training that's required to be able to use a new system. If Document Asset Operations becomes a new system, you're able to reduce the training requirements because maybe your employees don't even directly access Documentum. They can get the work order within Maximo, double-click on the standard operating procedure, and it'll just open that document up. So you don't necessarily need to be able to learn a new system to take advantage of it at that point. So it certainly provides a lot of value above and beyond just managing the documents. And, again, I think, looking at, another customer here, again, this is a nuclear utility in the United States, and they're scaling up to over 1,000 customers that are leveraging this system, as a result of what it provides to their organization. It meets the requirements for strict records management. It's highly regulated, obviously, but the structures and the adherence to standards and best practices that we built into Document Asset Operations really met their requirements directly. They also integrated with some of the other business systems, with Ventex and with a few other business systems. So the ability to integrate beyond the system itself is obviously there to take advantage of. Now, as you move forward and look at what you need, I think the 3 big things that we look at here: you need to have a system that provides security, that allows you to have a reliable content management system, certainly extremely important. You want to have consistency, and I think both the structured organization of our system as well as the work processes really help you to build that consistency within your organization. And you want to drive productivity, and I think certainly the workflows that we built into the system, as well as the quick access to information, really help drive that kind of value for your customers and for your employees. All right, so what I want to do at this point, give you a quick introduction to Documentum 2.1. Certainly, I think we've talked a lot about Documentum Asset Operations and what it provides. Version 2.1, as Rohit mentioned today, provides some great capabilities. The biggest thing that we've added here is some project functionality, because we do understand that companies are increasingly investing in the assets they have today. And having to choose between, do I need a project system or do I need an asset operations type solution, was a challenge for customers. So building in that support for brownfield projects, certainly extremely important. We've also really enhanced the capabilities around commenting and consolidating those comments. So some really great features there. Concurrent engineering is a really important topic for a number of our customers. So in providing a capability for you to have concurrent engineering, where you're working on a number of projects at the same time while still trying to operate the plant, certainly was important. So we added work packs and some capabilities around that. And we've also really improved our interoperability with both capital projects and supplier exchange. So to the degree you're using those solutions as well, I think you'll find that version 2.1 really provides some great value. Thank you very much.